will be given an opportunity to be heard. And when you hear your name, please come up to the podium and give us your name and address. Application number 721-24, Joseph Markel and Jostan Stewart Markel. Permission to leave patio having side yard of 0.8 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence A District, south side of Howells Road, 320.24 feet east of Manor Lane, Bay Shore. Is anybody here on that application?
Oh, somebody misses you.
Hi.
We know.
Good night. Should I
Your name and address, please.
name and address? My name is Josanne K. Stewart Marcel. That's my husband back there. Joseph Marcel. Address 362 Howells Road, Bay Shore, New York 11706.
Thank you. And you're just here on the patio side yard?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? No? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. Don't stick around too long. You're gonna change your mind.
Thank you.
Application number 722-24, Celine Yoel. Permission to leave driveway having side yard of 2.5 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Sylvan Avenue, 1,415 feet south of Park Street, Bayport.
Hi, good evening. I'm Celine Yoel for 772 Sylvan Avenue in Bayport.
Good evening. You're here just on the driveway side yard?
Yes, correct. Right now it's 2.5 feet instead of 4 feet.
Do we have any questions from the board?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, planning, any comments?
No comment.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? All right, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you.
Application number 723-24, Daniel Bonamini and Lauren Elowitz. Permission to leave second-story addition, to erect second-story addition, 25.5 by 35.7, leaving side yard of 12.4 feet instead of required 14 feet, total side yards of 26.8 feet instead of required 28 feet, to leave shed having rear yard of 1.6 feet instead of required 2 feet, and driveway having side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, west side of Colony Drive, 227.42 feet south of Brook Street, West Sayville.
It's Daniel Bonamini, 54 Colony Drive, West
Pick the
Sayville.
microphone up.
Oh, Daniel Bonamini, 54 Colony Drive, West Sayville.
Okay. You have a presentation or no? Okay, so we're just here on the second-story addition?
Yep.
And the side yards with that, the shed, and the driveway, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right, any questions from the board at this time?
No questions. No questions.
Planning, any comments on any of this?
No comment.
No? Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you.
Application number 724-24, Daniel and Angela Gregorio. Permission to install in-ground pool leaving rear and side yards of 12 feet instead of required 18 feet each. Residence AA District, northeast corner of Surfside Cove and Pace Drive South, West Islip.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Amy DeVito, Woodhull Expediting with offices at 800 Veterans Memorial Highway, Hauppauge, New York. We are proposing to remove the pond, shed, masonry walkway, wood deck, and spa, as well as the above-ground pool, and are proposing to erect an 18-foot by 33-foot in-ground pool with a masonry patio. This property was before the Board of Zoning Appeals twice in the past, once in 1993 under case number 14393, and once in 2018 under case number 62618. Both were applications before the board for proposed above-ground swimming pools where 12 feet relief on both the side yard and rear yard were requested and granted. We are proposing the same thing today, except this is going to be a in-ground pool, which could be looked at as less impactful than an above-ground pool. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have. Good, how are you? I had spoken to Nick a couple of months back, and yes, I believe it is a cluster.
As in a cluster subdivision, or? No, it's not a cluster subdivision.
I guess I'll put this to you, thank you. You know that we want one side to comply. Very fastidious about that.
Well, I could speak to that separately. I was just answering your question.
Speaking to it.
Speaking to that matter, I would actually agree with what she'd said previously. There's a grant for a pool at these exact setbacks for this property. The reason why it's being brought up again is it's in-ground instead of above ground.
Right, they're just taking it from above ground to down.
So these setbacks have been granted previously.
We already gave them the relief. I think in ground we see less. I know, but I'm just saying what we started. Oh, okay. No, I didn't know this. I may do that. Oh, okay. I've been educated tonight. Remarkable. Not every night, just every other Tuesday.
In 2018, we didn't address the pool, we just addressed the pool deck, right? I think the pool itself was granted much earlier, in 93.
There was a grant in 1993 and again in 2018,
Yeah,
correct?
in 2018, we addressed the pool deck, but not the pool. It doesn't, it's irrelevant, but I don't think we granted the pool again in 2018.
I'm so sorry, Ms. Rexler, I can't hear you.
Said you're very cogent with your comments.
Oh.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? No, okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second. Second, all in favor? Aye. Application's granted.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Application number 725-24, Juan Moreno, permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, Residence A District, north side of Prospect Avenue, 300 feet west of Fulton Avenue, Brentwood.
Hello, good evening. My name is Juan Moreno,
It's fine.
33 Prospect Avenue in Brentwood.
Do we have any questions from the board on this?
No.
No planning, any comments?
No comment.
No. Is there anyone else that'd like to be heard in this application? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion, we approve the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted for a period of 3 years.
Thank you.
Application number 726-24, Antonio and Haiti Serrano, permission to use dwelling for two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, to leave second-story deck having side yard of 3.9 feet and second-story addition 6.6 by 10 having side yard of 13.3 feet instead of required 18 feet each. Driveway on side property line not having a required setback of 4 feet, and front yard occupancy of 57.8% instead of permitted 40%. Residence AA District, east side of Islip Avenue, 100 feet south of West Plum Street, Central Islip.
Good evening. Name is Frank Montero, with address of 94 West Main Street, Bayshore, New York.
Good evening, sir. We have the information for the two-family, family use, and that's acceptable. I'm sure we have questions on the second-story addition and the second-story deck. Planning, do you have any comments on either?
Yeah, so these were constructed seemingly without permits quite a while ago, but at the time, there was no house to the north. It was a vacant residential lot. That doesn't necessarily mean that they should have done so, and at this point, there now is a relatively new house there, so there is, in fact, an impacted neighbor. The setbacks are very substantial in their request, and I don't really see any precedent. I don't think there's much of an argument for allowing them to exist there.
Are you able to zoom out on the?
Sure.
So the new house is on top?
Yeah, right to the north there,
Yeah.
you can see all of the,
Right.
the-
Mr. Montero, owners of the new home don't get any privacy when the second-story deck is 3.9 feet from the property. They get to look right into their neighbor's backyard.
That's a house.
Yeah. We generally are very concerned about privacy. We're all very private people. So I don't know how that, also the addition, what was that, 13 instead of 18?
Yeah, and the addition, I believe, is located on top of the deck.
Is there precedent for 13 in that area?
I didn't find any precedent
Yeah.
for really anything, no.
It's just too intrusive, unfortunately. I mean, the deck is really, because they'll sit on their deck and be able to look right into their neighbors, and who knows what neighbors do in their backyards. So I'm not in favor of it.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application? The front yard occupancy of 57.8%.
With regard to the front yard occupancy, there was a similar application on the application number 274-16.
We can't hear you.
A similar application was approved. However, the setback, this property is zero, I see.
The similar application, what percent was given?
I beg your pardon?
What percent was the front yard occupancy on the other application?
The same that we're requesting,
57.8?
yes.
Lenny, do you have that?
So I believe the case he's citing is to the north here, this property right here, which it's actually kind of like a front yard parking lot almost. This is a residentially zoned lot here. It used to be business zoned, and that's kind of existing. It's actually 67%, so it's higher than what's being requested in this particular case. It's a bit of a difficult comparison because of the history that was on that lot. I will say I am somewhat sympathetic to higher front yard occupancy considering its location. It's on 111 Islip Avenue. People, will like to have these sort of circular driveways to be able to get out and in without having to back in or out, considering the high traffic on a road like that. So I'm somewhat sympathetic to having a higher front yard occupancy than what the board would normally consider. Whether that number is 57 is up to you, but I think there is a case for a higher than average one.
What do we normally give, 42?
Normally you give 45 as
45.
a percent.
This is a major road, right?
Yeah, it's Route 111, Islip Avenue.
Then you get 50,
What would you think, is we'll have the 111 exception?
a major road.
Yeah, the major road exception?
67, what's the next?
At 50, you want to say?
Oh, there's
50?
nothing else, no.
What is, what's the second? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, because.
That's been granted by the board, nothing. Really, the most you could say is that if you go far up enough, I mean, there's some business and general service zone properties on 111.
So we're going to move this to 50% if we're all comfortable
Well,
with that.
this is a minor arterial.
Right.
So we've done it on Second Avenue in Brentwood and Connecticut Avenue in North Great River.
So you're
We've
saying
gone to 50%.
we should give, all right, that will be the new, 50 is the new 45.
Well, it's a state road.
Right.
It's State Route 111. I think we've also done it maybe on the Long Island Expressway Service Road.
So we'll have the state road
That
exception.
goes.
Yep.
Somebody's got to write down all these exceptions.
Yeah, well, it's like English grammar, there's so many exceptions. You're the keeper of the exceptions, Mr. McCabe. That's always been the vice chairman's role. You need to know them instantly.
All right, so regarding the second-story deck and the second-story addition, those are the issues. Do you have anything on that?
Not that I can provide.
Sorry?
I said, not that I can provide.
Nothing, okay. All right. You want to take who's centralized?
He's coming.
There he is?
Why don't we just do it?
Yeah, why don't you do it?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we deny so much of the, we deny the application in general, however, grant the front yard occupancy of 50%, denying the remainder of the application.
No, the two-family use is good.
Oh, and the family use only for a period of 3 years.
Second. Hold on, the driveway on the side property line.
Didn't even know we discussed that. And we'll grant the driveway on the side property line and deny everything else.
Second. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We're on page
Application is
2
denied in
right
part and granted in the balance.
Nice jacket.
Thank you. I didn't tuck my shirt in out of principle.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're making a stand right here.
This is my help.
This is my hill. I'm gonna die on it. Does John appreciate
Application number 727-24, Jose Jimenez and Lauren Ferrara. Permission to erect two-story addition and roofed-over porch, leaving side yards of 11.2 feet and 10.6 feet instead of required 18 feet each, and total side yards of 21.8 feet instead of required 36 feet. Residence AA District, east side of Oakwood Avenue, 457.97 feet north of Academy Street, Bayport.
Good evening. Eric Frenzik, 207 Oakwood Avenue, Bayport, New York, East Coast Design Build Incorporated.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You want to give us the history on this a little bit?
Yes, we were in front of the board already, and the property, because it's on an angle and quite narrow, and the house is not parallel to the sidelines, it's very hard to do any additions without hitting the side yards. So we were trying to go straight back last time, but from the recommendation of the board, you said, you have quite a bit of property in the back of the house, so why don't you use that? So that's what we did. We moved the addition more in the center of the property towards the back.
Thank you. Planning, any comments on it?
Yes, so I would concur with what he said. This was previously heard. At the time, the side yard setback was too substantial for the board to consider. It's since been revised in keeping with what the board had requested them at the time, that yes, you have a narrow lot, but you have a deep rear yard, so try to focus it more inward and backwards into the rear yard. I would say that they have done so to the best of their ability. It is a difficult lot with 50-foot lot width in a AA standards. So, yes.
Anyone else would like to be heard in this application? Any questions from the board? Take a motion, please. I'll make a motion to grant the application. All in favor?
Aye.
Application is granted.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Application number 728-24, Dennis Feliz and Veronica Gonzalez. Permission to leave patio on side property line not having required setback of 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Race Place, 1,015 feet north of Burrard Boulevard, Oakdale.
Good evening. Salvatore Koshia from Permits R Us, 338 Jericho Turnpike, Syosset, New York, 11791. We're here to maintain the side yard patio of 0, where 4 is required.
And this was heard before us before?
It was heard before. We had a roof over and a barbecue island, which was to be cut back. It was cut back to comply. Unfortunately, the contractor who cut back the roof over and moved the barbecue island over decided that it would just, instead of leaving dirt, to put pavers down in the same line. So the pavers remain, but the barbecue island and the roof over are cut back to comply, actually more than what's required.
We denied the whole thing, yeah, so Nick brought that up to me today, he's like,
So this was previously denied, both patio and the outside kitchen.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know if the board remembers this, we denied this back in
photos.
May.
Thanks.
Can I ask, I didn't catch, what changed that they should?
They removed the kitchen.
So the roof over and the barbecue were very close to the side property line. I believe at the time they were maybe a foot. I don't remember the exact number. So my client hired a contractor. They cut the roof over and took down the barbecue and rebuilt it to comply more than the 4 foot required. I believe it's now. Hold on, I'll tell you exactly where it's at.
Hold on.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application?
4647.
No? Okay, we do have one letter of concern, I guess. That's in the file, but I'm not gonna read it into the record. So they basically moved the kitchen off of the side yard. Planning, any comments?
Oh, I remember this one. So it's just the patio.
I don't really have that much to add. You summed it up quite
No,
nicely.
that's not the area.
It's, was previously denied for the kitchen and the patio. They had moved the kitchen, the patio's still there, so now they're requesting to keep the patio.
Did they remove the kitchen, or they just moved it off?
They moved it to
No, they
conform.
took apart the barbecue island that was there and the roof over. They dismantled it, shifted everything over, it's 4 foot's what allowed. They put it 4.7, I believe, and 4.6, and they rebuilt it so that it complies. But like I said, unfortunately, the contractor, when he took everything apart, instead of leaving dirt or grass there, he just put the pavers back on the ground. So we're back in front of you for just the patio.
We just won a case about contractors not doing the right thing. Right. So it's just the patio?
It's just the patio.
All right. I'm good, yeah.
All right, any,
Take a motion.
take a motion then. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you very much. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.
Did he, yeah, he did, he gave up. Application number 729-24, Zubaida Balak and Saeed Ahmed. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Code Section 68-602, and to leave one-story addition 7.4 by 13.5, resulting in floor area ratio of 33% instead of permitted 25%. To leave cellar entrance and egress window having side yard of 5.8 feet instead of required 14 feet each. Residence B District, north side of Abreu Street, 573.58 feet west of East Forks Road, Bay Shore.
Good evening. My name is John Tufel. I'm a professional engineer, 707 Route 110, Farmingdale, New York. I'm here tonight with Ms. Zubaida Balak of 33 Abreu Street in Bayshore, who's seeking permission to establish a basement accessory apartment and to leave a rear one-story addition of 7.4 feet by 13.5 feet, about 100 square feet, resulting in a floor area ratio of 33%, where only 25% is permitted, and to leave a cellar entrance and add a cellar egress window having a side yard of 5.8 feet instead of the required 14 feet. The existing main house has a west side yard of only 10 feet, so the house itself is only 10 feet from the property line, so they could never maintain 14 feet for any kind of an addition. And it's located in the Residence B zone. The home was purchased about 2 years ago in basically the same condition as it is today, with the exception of that small rear one-story addition, which is not part of the accessory apartment. Ms. Balak resides on the first floor with one of her sons, and Mr. Ahmed lives on the second floor with Ms. Balak's other son. As the plan shows, there is a kitchen on the second floor of the main house, which is being removed. Sure. Not that I'm aware of, but usually it's been my experience that the low 30s is not that uncommon. Yeah, I don't have any precedents.
I also do not have any precedent.
It's a cape with a dormer on the back, so it's 2 stories.
It's called that small story.
About 2 years. It'll be January 31st. It'll be 2 years, so a little bit less than 2 years. About 6 months ago, I believe. It's right behind, it's one story. The addition is only one story. It's right behind the garage. And it's actually 99.9 square feet, so it's very small. And it's not part of the accessory apartment.
So the main contributor to the increased FAR is the presence of the accessory apartment in the lowest level basement. Once we permit them, or we don't prohibit them any longer in basements or cellars, but when we removed that provision, we made it clear in gross floor area that an accessory apartment would count in the basement or cellar or gross floor area and as a result FAR. So the main contributor to this FAR of 33% is the almost 700 square foot apartment in the basement, not the 99 square foot one-story addition in the back of the garage.
Whatever is the contributor, respectively.
Right, just pointing it out, that normally a 100 square foot addition would only increase it like 1%.
Right. Mr. Chairman, I don't know how we can grant the
How about the cell entrance? Side door behind.
What was that again? Yeah, it does look close. The existing side yard for this house is 10 feet. It's very common for these side yards to be 10 feet in these Res B neighborhoods that were built in the 50s and 60s. And since the cellar entrance is usually permitted encroachment, it could be pretty easily argued that most of the neighborhood probably has 10 feet. Cellar entrances have to extend out a bit more. It's a subgrade structure for the most part. I don't think the setbacks on these are usually very problematic. But yeah, the real issue here is the FAR, and as Mary put it, it's mostly a factor of the accessory apartment in the basement.
There's nothing close precedent-wise.
I didn't find anything at all.
Which, of course, you can't see the accessory apartment from the street or the basement entrance, you know, for that matter. It's just not visible.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter?
Hi, my name is Rosemary Wirtz. I live at 34 April. This is my husband, Douglas. I have to object to people building extra apartments on our street. It's a residential street. Town of Islip seems to allow all these accessory apartments. People down the street, they have extra apartments in their house. It now becomes a business. They're making money. They had cars parked all up and down the street. I'd have to object. I mean, honestly, a basement apartment. What am I saying? I'm sorry? Because, yes, it devaluates my property now. I pay high taxes. Thank you.
Same thing.
Did you want to say anything, Bob?
Robert Davis, 31 Abreu Street. I too am concerned about the parking. I'd like to know how many people exactly do they plan on having live in this house, with an apartment upstairs, downstairs, and on the main floor. The street cannot maintain that many cars. If you figure 2 cars per residence there is absolutely no room on this block now. We're snaking in and down the street as it is now on both sides for the parking. So you figure an additional 6 cars on the property there. The block cannot maintain that. So, excuse me?
The town code will require them to have 4 spots per engineering specifications.
5 people?
4 parking spots they require to have.
That's still a lot of cars around the area. It's as tight now as it is. Those additional cars would really block. We get the mall traffic coming down from one end, and the other end from Brook Street to the mall, and it's really getting very congested in the area as it is now. So, thank you.
Anyone else would like to be heard in this application? Yes. You're on something else.
116 Buffalo Avenue.
Okay, excuse me, so you want to make a motion here on this?
Yeah, I'm
Oh, I'm sorry.
leaning towards no.
Yeah, I think we are.
May I speak? Well, I just wanted to address the comments from the neighbors. First of all, there'll be no apartment upstairs. That's, one of the gentlemen seemed to think there was going to be a apartment upstairs. There is a kitchen there now, which we're taking out. So we're only talking about the accessory apartment, you know, in the basement, which we, as we know, doesn't really add any physical area to the footprint. We appreciate, of course, that, you know, everybody pays their taxes, because you get in a lot of trouble if you don't pay your taxes. And regarding the parking, the driveway is 42 feet long and 13 and a half feet wide, so, you know, it could easily take 4 cars, as the code mentions.
Grant the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years, deny the FAR ratio variance, and to grant the cellar entrance and egress with it. Right, you have to put it somewhere else. And if you can't put it somewhere else, that's fine, but you've satisfied the requirements for the accessory apartment, so you can't say no to that. But we're not giving you the other variances that we.
Well, you said you 30.
We're giving you the egress window, I apologize.
Right.
You can have the accessory apartment, you just have to find somewhere else other than the basement to put it.
But you said an FAR of 30% was granted? 30%, 30? Right, okay.
Well, that's what my motion, we haven't voted yet.
Okay, yes, sir, sure.
But you read our minds. So motion's been made, do I have a second?
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Application number 730-24, Bala and Pravina Karanam. Permission to establish accessory apartment having gross floor area of 897 square feet instead of permitted 800 square feet, to leave shed 27.5 feet ahead of front line of dwelling instead of required 20 feet behind, 6-foot fence having front yard of 3.2 feet instead of required 15 feet, and AC unit not having 4 feet behind the front line of the dwelling. Residence A District, southwest corner of Town Line Road and Wedgewood Drive, Hauppauge.
Hi, my name is Greg Bottomley. I'm from Central Suffolk Expediting, 4 Drew Drive, Manorville, New York.
Okay, so the first issue is the accessory apartment, gross floor area of 897 feet.
Yes. This was originally I guess, a medical office in a dwelling. My client purchased the property in 2021, and the apartment was established already. Didn't know that it was illegal until they found out, and now they hired me to take care of it. From the lay of the footprint, it's tough to take away from that size of apartment because the only way is to come in where there's a fireplace dividing 2 walls, which means we'd have to turn the bedroom into part of the dwelling and move the bedroom somewhere else.
So historically, we've granted 850 square feet. So I think we should reduce this to 850. And that planning, do you have any comments on that portion of it?
On that portion of it, I don't have anything to add to what you said.
And how about the rest of the application then?
The rest of the application, to be frank, I don't know if there's much of anything here that's grantable. The shed well in front of the dwelling, you can see in the top left there, same with the fence, it's right next to the fence that's being called into question. And the AC unit, from what I understand, is in front of the house and outside the fence, so I think it might be screened by some bushes and stuff, but it's, otherwise would have been visible to the street. Kind of hard to tell with that part, but yeah, the shed is right next to the sidewalk, it's peeking over the fence, I don't think any of it's really all that good.
The shed, the client actually said that she's willing to remove the shed, so we can take that actually off the application. That's not a problem.
I don't think we have any sheds 27 and a half feet in front of the property.
Oh, I know that. I told her that in the beginning. I said, we'll put in for it, but I don't see it being granted.
What about the fence?
The fence, I guess we're going to have to move it, but I would like some leniency on setback from how far off the street, only due to the fact that the pool kind of lines up with the front of the house.
I'm not following you with, I want some leniency. We don't grant 6-foot fences on the property line.
The fence does not necessarily need to be in line with the house, it just needs to be set back at least 15 feet if it's maintaining a 6-foot fence.
Okay. I'm used to Brookhaven where you can't have any 6-foot fence, or 6-foot fence past the front of the house.
If it was a 4-foot fence, it might actually be able to be closer than that, if not possibly where it's currently located.
So if you got a 6-foot fence on the primary front, it's gonna have to be 15 feet setback.
Okay.
You can have a lower fence, be the 4-foot.
Yeah, I think they'll probably keep the 6-foot and move it because the privacy of the pool area.
You hop on it?
Yeah.
But basically, I think we will.
It's 850.
850.
Yeah, and then denied it too. What about the AC?
I think we should move that too.
That's also way out.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No? Take a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the accessory apartment for a period of 3 years, but at 850 square feet instead of 897 square feet, and that we deny the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor? Application's approved for the apartment at 850 and denied the balance.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Application number 731-24, Ross Greenberg, permission to erect detached garage 27 by 40, having gross floor area of 1,080 square feet, exceeding ground floor area of dwelling, which is 1,023.4 square feet. Residence AA District, south side of Ironwood Street, 110 feet east of Ferndale Boulevard, Islip.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen there. My name is Ross Greenberg. It's 108 Ironwood Street, Islip, New York.
Mr. Greenberg, what's the purpose of this accessory structure?
So I have a number of classic cars that I've been shuffling around, and it's been a lot of work. I'm disabled. I'm on disability. But really, I just want to put the cars in the garage and not have to.
Can you make the structure smaller?
Well, I really wanted it bigger at first, but I was told don't even waste your time with that. But I did call and speak to somebody here, and he said you're pretty close to the size of the house. You're asking for a little bit more. I think they'll approve it, and so I pushed it to be able to put 4 cars in it instead of 3. I actually have 7.
Is this person somebody knowledge in zoning who gave you this advice?
No, I spoke to somebody here who's from your office, from the building department.
And they gave you that advice?
He said
Zoning's not
instead
our
of going for the bigger size, he said, if you go for that size, I think it's close enough that that's what he said.
If you're willing to make the garage, 80 feet smaller, or even 60 feet smaller, then it's not an issue.
It can't be larger than your house.
It's actually not even 60, it's 57.6 feet smaller.
He's our
Right.
major.
It's actually 56 point.
Whatever.
Yeah, you blew it.
I'm
You had
a
me.
lawyer, not an accountant.
You
Give me a break.
had me. You had me. But he's an
So-
accountant.
If you make it smaller than your primary residence, should be okay.
Okay, so, I mean, it was equal to the primary residence.
Make it smaller.
So how many feet less?
A foot smaller.
No, but what's the total footage that you want me to reduce?
Your primary residence is 1,023.4 feet.
So you need to make it 1,022.4 feet. 1,022.4.
So I was right, 57
Did
feet.
anybody suggest to you that if the house were slightly bigger, maybe with an awning over a door?
No,
No, but they told you to come here and get the variance from us.
they just said not to ask for the 5-car garage and go for what I was hoping for, at least to get 4 cars. So you need 40 foot, but I guess I could reduce the width, the depth.
The key is it's got to be smaller than your primary residence.
I understand that.
Don't go to a bad builder and come and say, oh, the builder was off by 5 feet.
Well, I'm not going to make any mistakes, don't worry. My question is, will you approve,
We told you what we'd approve, 1 foot smaller than your house.
Okay, so
You don't
then,
need a variance.
And you don't need a variance.
okay, so you'll approve that. Okay, I mean, I'd love
Is
to
there
have
anyone
more.
else who would like to be heard in this application?
I would just reiterate what Mary said. It's not a variance that's normally granted. The options would either be to reduce the size of the proposed garage. Alternatively, since it's just based on the ground floor area of the house, some people in the past have just done a small addition on the house in order to make that bigger than the garage that they want. Either way, you wouldn't need the variance.
I see what you
I don't know who you spoke with, who gave you the advice that you came here with. I wasn't me, but
I have his name, but I don't have it with me.
It's immaterial at this point. Right?
You don't want
Yeah.
to give them up.
No, I actually have it.
All right.
I have it in my paperwork in the car, but I don't want,
Okay.
You guys, you guys make the rules. One thing I want to say, though, so if I add a little bit of square footage to the house, then I could build a bigger garage and fit the 4 cars. for
Yeah, you
sure.
have to add about 55 square feet to the house-ish.
Okay.
You have a nice big property, and the house doesn't take up much of the ground floor area, so,
Yeah, it's a big open space.
right.
Yeah. And does putting a deck on the back of the house, does that count as, or
That
no, it's
doesn't
got to
count
be
towards-
That's not-
living space, right?
That wouldn't count towards your ground floor area. You have to
Okay.
increase the ground floor area, so,
I understand.
it has to be specifically living area as well, according to zoning. So like a
Oh,
covered deck doesn't always count for them.
It's got to
Make the
be,
house bigger or the garage smaller?
okay.
All right, so I'll take a motion, please.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we deny the application.
All in favor? Aye. So the application is denied. You understand what you have to do.
Well, just tell me what I have to do, just to
You
be
have to
clear.
make a
Once,
decision.
if I make it smaller than the house, then I don't,
You either make the garage smaller than the house, or the house bigger than the garage.
and if I make it, then I don't have to go through all of the motions
You don't need a
again?
variance.
You don't need a
You may
variance.
need a
Just
building permit, but you don't need a variance.
Yeah, just remember, if you decide to make the garage smaller, they measure it from the siding, from the outside, not from the
Good point.
interior.
Yeah, that-
That screws up a lot of people. A lot of people end up here with a slightly too big garage.
Right.
Because they don't calculate it the right way.
Right.
So they're gonna measure it from whatever the siding goes on, from siding to siding. That's how they measure it.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure your builder knows what he's doing.
We submitted plans, and it was exterior sizes,
Good,
and
good.
so we'll just,
A lot of people make that mistake.
yeah. Actually, Tough Shed was involved. I don't know if I'm going to really use them, but they...
Mr. Greenberg, we're set, right?
Yeah,
We're
okay,
good?
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg.
Application number 732-24, Gary Thal and Kathy Hofstadler Thal. Permission to elevate 2-story dwelling, leaving front yard of 17.7 feet, and roofed-over entrance platform, leaving front yard of 13.5 feet, instead of required 25 feet each, and side yard of 7 feet instead of required 10 feet. To erect screen porch, 13 by 22.3, leaving side yard of 7 feet instead of required 10 feet, deck leaving rear yard of 5 feet, and side yard of 7.8 feet instead of required 15 feet each. To elevate 2 accessory structures. Number 1, leaving rear yard of 5 feet, and number 2, leaving rear yard of 7.8 feet and side yard of 7.8 feet instead of required 10 feet each. And to elevate shower stall, leaving rear yard of 5 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residence BAA District, east side of Beachwald Avenue, 180 feet north of Central Walk, Seaview.
Good evening. Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 256 Orinoco Drive, Bright Waters, New York, representing the applicants. Just handed up a copy of a site plan and also the certificate of occupancy for this house. It was CO'd circa 1929, single-family dwelling, has two accessory structures, one being a shed with a laundry in it, the second being a permitted guest house. And the point, guest house is just a bathroom and a bedroom. We're simply looking to raise this house to meet FEMA level. The lift would be 4.2 feet higher than it is today. We also are seeking to do a modest extension to a screen porch to accommodate a dining room table and also a small decking area. The porch would remain in line with the house, and the proposed decking does have precedent, which I've handed up to the board. I've done a ton of work on A, B, and C Street and Seaview here, and there's probably 10 or 15 cases of precedent. I only handed up 3.
Mr. Graham, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Can you tell us, I understand some of the variances are driven by the raising, the lifting of the house. What is not directly driven? What can be accomplished that's additional here?
The only thing that we are seeking to add to this house would be an addition to the screen porch and a small portion of the deck. I believe the large copy I handed up to the board, it's highlighted in yellow, the 2 items seeking that currently don't exist today.
So let's look at the first one, the screen porch.
Yes.
You want to go from what to what?
The screen porch is just being kept in line with the house. The setback is, yes. I have a rear deck that's highlighted at 5 feet from the property line. And this board has granted, to several of my cases, 4.4. There is case precedent for 0-foot setbacks. So we're not creating anything that doesn't exist today, including on this existing property, that the board approved the shower location that sits on the deck, which is at 5 feet from the rear setback.
And that's 5 feet instead of what?
It should be on the call of the meeting. Was it 5 feet instead of required?
No, 15.
My query, and again, refer to everybody here. I understand if we granted 5 in the past, that would augur well for you, but this becomes cumulative at some point in time, doesn't it? We're giving you a number of variances, and we're giving you a raise. I mean, that puts
Understood.
a heavy onus on the property. So it's not like we just, maybe your last application or the one before that, or somebody else said, I just want to go 5 instead of 15, and you've granted it. That's not this. This is a lot going on here.
I would be happy to withdraw the deck portion of it if the board would consider granting the rest. It's a FEMA house lift. I can't control the position of the house. It's only going up 4.2 feet. It's been there since 1929.
Well,
So-
that's why I'm trying to establish, we understand you want to lift the house, and we've been liberal with those grants. I'm trying to find out what is not directly associated with the lift.
And it was just those 2 items which I would withdraw the deck addition.
So the deck is.
I would make it's the deck addition. The deck itself is being lifted with the house. They exist today.
Do you see where that is on the? No. We're trying to figure out where the deck is.
It's all on the site plan in front of you. I did highlight the yellow portion of a deck extension.
Yeah. So it's a little confusing because the addition portion seems to be indicating you'll maintain 10. for the deck.
So
Yet the call of the
he's
meeting
extending the
reflects
deck
the
over
existing
here.
deck
Right.
needing
So that's
5.
10 feet instead of 15 over here. The
Right.
5 foot's being called out because it's on top of the shower, and it's being called out because that's part of the lift.
Right.
The only things that are being added besides the lift is this corner over here of the deck that's 10 feet.
Right.
And they're extending the screen porch over here at the 7, which is in line with the existing house.
Okay,
Everything
so-
else is existing.
Nick just explained it. He's doing your job.
Thank you, Nick.
So-
He did his job too.
I would be happy
So-
to approach if needed, but it's a little bit harder with the stage here.
So if I could just get a sense of the board, my take is we don't have any real issue with the lifting of the house. The two add-ons, and again, I'm just putting it out there, is the raised screen porch, 7 instead of 10 doesn't seem traumatic. And Mr. Graham is saying, I will do away with the second add-on, which is on, I guess, what
Yeah,
is
it
that?
actually complies, Mr. Wexler. We did make that comply, so it's not,
So you want to withdraw that, so much of the...
well, it's not, it doesn't need a variance, so it wouldn't be part of this.
But is it in the call of the calendar?
To be clear, the part of the deck being extended, it's 10 instead of 15, it's technically non-compliant. He has to request 5 instead of 15, just based on the house lift. So if the board's gonna be granting 5 instead of 15 for the house lift,
It goes with...
the part of the deck that's 10 feet is, not really a question in that sense, I don't believe.
So basically, this is a grant.
And also, to make you feel better, there's plenty of decks over here that are 10
Right,
feet rear
right.
yards regardless.
So basically, you ran the table here.
Well, this is an anomaly that it was built in 1929. It probably pre-existed before a lot of the other homes in the area, so
Okay.
it is an odd case.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Please come up.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Danziger. I live to the immediate south of the Falls. We share
Can you give
a
us your
prop-
street address, please, Mr. Danziger?
Excuse me?
Can you give us the street address?
My street address is 16 Beechwold Avenue.
Thank you.
I'm a year-round resident of Fire Island. I've been there for almost 50 years. And I've known several of the homeowners owning the house that the Falls currently own. I am not here, I want to be perfectly clear, I am not here to object to this application. I'm only here to request a little breathing space. I'm also a building contractor, so I know kind of what's involved with lifting houses. And I don't think it would be unreasonable to ask that since there's a 7-foot space between my north property line and their south property line, 7 feet, to bring it into conformity, which would be 10. When I put a tape measure on the house, it is in fact 7 feet. However, one of the things that I'm at issue with, or I'm concerned about, is that the condensing units that hang on the house are just a skosh over 5 feet from the property line. So I'm imagining that this lift, and it's a 2-story house, so the lift is going to impact on a lot of my creature comforts, if you will. And we're talking perhaps 3 feet of a move. On the north side of the Thal house, there's a good, I'm just going to take a guess, I haven't taped it off, but at least 50, 60 feet of property. I think 3 feet is not an unreasonable thing to ask. I think it's a neighborly thing to request, and that's my point.
No, so, Mr. Danziger,
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, I think. Are you talking about the raised screen porch only, or the entire house?
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing.
What, are you talking about the whole house, or just the raised screen porch?
No, I'm talking about the house.
You want them to move their house 3 feet?
Yes.
And you think that's a reasonable request?
Right, right.
I happen to know what it's involved with lifting and moving a house. I don't think it's an unreasonable request. But again, I want to be clear. I'm not objecting to it. I'm asking
No,
for perhaps another look at this project, to give both of us a little breathing room.
I understand that, and you make a good point, there's 50 feet on the other side of the property, but I always thought when they lifted homes, they lifted them straight up. I didn't know that it was a thing to lift it and then move it over. I don't, unless there's some, I know they can engineer anything, but is that an exorbitant cost? Actually, I'd like to hear from you and from Mr. Graham, because I'm not an architect. I always thought they just lifted it straight up. I didn't know that they could just lift it and move it over. I mean, if that could be done, your request is very reasonable. I just don't know how reasonable the task is.
I don't know how to answer that question without getting into the nitty-gritty of it. But when the house is up, it's on steel beams. And moving a house when it's up in the air is a matter of heavy equipment that's going to be involved with putting the pilings in and creating the foundation. In fact, not too long ago, another project on my block, the Breskin project, the house was lifted and moved and put on its new foundation. And they also had a substantial amount of real estate to their south side, and I don't know what their motivation was, but they did move the house. It's done all the time.
Oh, all right, I mean, this...
Lifting a house straight up is a no-brainer. Moving it involves a little bit more finesse
And money.
and money.
All right, when you're finished, I'd like to hear from Mr. Graham, and then maybe we'll hear from Nick, because this is new to me. I never heard of them lifting and moving. It's like the house shuffle. I mean, if it can be done, makes sense, but...
Is there anything else you'd like to say, Mr. Danziger?
No, that's all I have to say.
If it's a no-brainer, and Mr. Graham specializes in no-brainers.
Well, he specializes in the engineering of it, on paper.
And you do the building?
I do the work, yes. Thank
So you'll do this for free for them?
I'm sorry?
You'll do the work for free?
Will I do the work for free?
For them?
Not
Just out of curiosity, I'm going to put it out there, and
a chance.
how much more would it cost to lift and move? You can give it in a percentage?
I
Could you-
actually wouldn't even venture a guess because the way prices are today.
Well, would it be 10% more? I'm just 50, whatever
No,
the prices are.
No, if it's lifted properly and I'm sure it will because I think I know the contractors that'll be doing the job, rolling it over 3 feet is not a big deal.
So would you say it's 5% additional cost? I really don't know. I'm trying to learn.
I would guess, I would venture to say it's significantly less than a $10,000 bill.
All right. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this application? Mr. Graham?
So we move in a house?
Now you're going to tell us, oh my God, it's the most impossible thing on the world to do.
No, it's not impossible.
Would it make sense? Well, we'll get to the cost.
What is a little upsetting is that I did have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Danziger prior to this evening. His concern to me was my vegetable garden is blocked by a tree. I'm going to lose my view, and the sunlight is going to impact the rest of my house. And I reached out to the homeowner. We agreed to cut a tree.
Okay, but Mr.
yeah.
Graham, I get that. We're dealing with the here and now.
Yes, can we move a house 3 feet?
We
The
have
point
issues
is-
presented to us, and we're trying to find out, at least I am legitimately, what is the problem with moving it if it can be moved without an exorbitant cost?
$20,000, and the homeowner is not here to tell me, go ahead and move it 3 feet. If we would have been able to, Mr. Danziger would have been forthcoming and told us. He also spoke to the Tom Ruskin, the Seaview Association, and he told Tom the same thing. We negotiated cutting a tree to accommodate his vegetable garden. For me to sit here tonight and make a decision
Well, no,
to
you don't
move
have to make
3
it
feet.
tonight. I just
know,
want-
but time is of the essence because of where we only have a building window from now till May. So I would ask the board to reserve decision until I can talk to my clients, moving it 3
You
feet.
may not have to do that. I was just trying to find out, as I said earlier, I've only heard of houses going straight up. I've never heard.
They can be moved, but it comes at a cost, and is 3 feet going to make a difference? We're only lifting this house 4.2 feet, this high, much higher than it is today.
Planning, do you have anything else to add?
How much does it cost to move a house?
I have absolutely no idea how much it costs. I know it can be done. I
We've
know
heard
some people have
applications
done it in the
before
past,
involving moving the houses, so.
It's not commonly done, certainly.
No, it can be done, but the homeowner wasn't prepared to sit
Right.
here and just move it.
That's fair, Mr. Graham. We understand.
The next hearing is December 10th. It's a packed agenda. Would you like to be on that agenda?
I don't think I have a choice, because I can't make a decision to
Well,
spend.
the choice is adjourn to December 10 or reserve decision.
Let's adjourn to December 10th.
Do you have anything else?
I'd vote to approve right now. Absolutely got it. A neighbor can demand that the applicant move his house? No.
No. That's not what we
Just to clarify,
Do you guys want to have a 5
we've heard applications before where you do shift the houses, and it's not that outrageous to shift the house, so there's a little debate going on about whether it's outrageous, but maybe because I'm a Fire Islander and I've seen.
I understand, I just don't want to spend the client's money without speaking
Absolutely,
to them.
I don't think the board.
We're going to have a 5-minute sidebar.
Yeah, let's hear what
And why don't you call your client, but we're going to have a 5-minute sidebar.
I mean,
I could do that as well, if you want to hold this off.
You know what?
He's got another case to present.
yeah, no, so let's take 5 minutes. They have strong feelings. I have strong feelings at times. Let's take 3 minutes, not gonna hurt. Let's see what they say.
Just give us 3 minutes.
Give them.
Yeah.
Again, to be clear, the 5-foot rear yard is being called out for the deck. That's what the shower stall is on, which was previously granted by this board at 5-foot rear yard. So the part of the deck that's being added is not adjacent to this neighbor, and it's further away than what parts of the deck currently exist in. I think if you're granting the 5-foot rear yard for the deck, it kind of just follows that this is going to be allowed.
Thank you. However, in good faith, I will still speak to the client to talk about moving this house 3 feet.
My concern is more about precedent. And then every neighbor's going to, our island is going to come in and ask me to make it move the house.
Understood, but they want to be good neighbors, so we will ask. So. Wow. I understand. I just wish Mr. Danziger communicated to us before the hearing tonight, because we did speak, so. Thank you. I'm coming up next.
And Renee Lesser, permission to erect second-story deck 24.9 by 32.1 irregular, leaving side yard of 11 feet instead of required 15 feet, and floor area ratio of 35.26% instead of permitted 30%. and shed 14 by 17.5, having height of 24.8 feet instead of permitted 14 feet, to leave shed 6.8 by 8.1, having front yard of 53.2 feet, and to erect arbor 2 by 4 on front property line, not having required setback of 60 feet each. Residence BAA District, west side of Atlantic Avenue, 240 feet north of Central Walk, Seaview.
Good evening. For the record, again, my name is Glenn Graham, Graham Associates, 256 Orinoco Drive, Brightwaters, New York. Again, we are looking to add a deck and a shed in the back of the house. Both of those items will be in line with the house. However, we did speak to the Halls who are with us tonight, and even though the shed itself is in a conforming location, we are seeking a height variance because it is up at FEMA level when the town counts the height of a shed from grade. After speaking to Mrs. Hall, we decided that we would move the shed to the middle of the yard so it does not impact her at all, even though the proposed is conforming. The deck proposed is in line with the house. There is precedent for all of the deck. I've handed up some of the cases I've done personally in the past, and there's probably about 8 or 9 more cases we could use as precedent. We are seeking a small arbor in front of the house, which is considered a fence by code, but it's just going to be kind of like a decorative grape arbor. So if the board has any questions, I'll be happy to answer as well.
Any questions from the board at this time? No. Planning, any comments?
Just to agree with what he said, the shed's being brought up because it's elevated on the deck and we measured this from grade. There's no current exception for accessory structures for flood proofing because it's not a requirement. And there's no exception for an arbor as well. It's currently existing code, but it's supposed to be on the front property line like that. It's an entranceway effectively.
Anyone else would like to be heard this afternoon?
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
-24, Montauk Properties LLC. Permission to install primary facial sign having height of 22.33 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, and public interest facial sign having area of 12 square feet instead of permitted 3 square feet. Business 3 District, north side of Montauk Highway, 111 feet west of Burrard Boulevard, Oakdale.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Peggy Kelly. I'm with Kelly's Expediting. My office is at 2150 Smithtown Avenue, Suite 5 in Ronkonkoma, New York. I'm here on behalf of the applicant requesting 2 sign variances for the new fresh grocery store that went in on Montauk Highway in Oakdale. The first sign that we're asking for is the larger sign that's on the front of the building. We are asking for a grant for height. We were given permission by the Commissioner of Planning back in June to get a sign permit, but when we had to come here for the entrance sign, the small entrance sign, the building department asked us to request a variance for the height of the larger wall sign. The sign is obstructed by some fencing and rail that's in front of the building at the top is on the facade, so the height is limited to where we put it. The small entrance sign is, again, just a sign over the entrance and showing people how to get into the store.
Thank you. Planning, do you have any comments on this?
The signs look like they are appropriate for the building, and planning has no objection.
No. Any questions from the board at this time? No questions. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this application? Take a motion, please. All in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Application number 735-24, Dayton T. Brown Incorporated. Permission to leave accessory structure 40.8 by 100.3, having height of 36.33 feet instead of permitted 18 feet. Industrial 1 District, north side of Church Street, 827.8 feet west of Johnson Avenue, Bohemia.
Again, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Peggy Kelly, Kelly's Expediting, 2150 Smithtown Avenue, Suite number 5 in Ronkonkoma, New York. We are asking for a height variance for an accessory structure at the Dayton T. Brown facility on Church Street in Bohemia. Dayton T. Brown has been a member of this community since 1960. This structure is necessary in order to commit to a government contract that is coming due to them. Initially, there was a shed in this location, which they removed, thinking they could just put this new shed up, not realizing, even though it was the same height in square footage, that it required a height variance.
I'm sorry, they're replacing similar to similar?
Correct. They're replacing a shed that was moved to this location in 2001 when they put an addition onto the building.
No, so now they're just trying to do it legally?
Correct. That it was legal. The shed that was there, they removed, was legal, had a permit, had a certificate, going back to 2003.
So, but nothing's going to change?
Nothing, just the height.
The same, how much? Just the height. It's just the height's going to change?
It's just the height. We're going from 18 feet to 36.
Okay, well,
32.
well, that's not nothing.
No, it's not nothing, but it, again, this is to do to a government contract.
Okay, but we love the government, but we're the town of Iceland.
No, but they're building height on these projects, on
Which
this.
government?
Yeah.
United
This is the
States
only government I care about tonight.
Okay. We
Do we-
understand that, Mr. Wexler.
Do we have precedent for 36 feet?
It was, the buildings themselves are 50.
Okay.
What about, do we have precedent for accessory
yeah.
structures?
Structures on this location, probably
Because
not.
if we allow all of the accessory structures to be the same height as the building, then it's such an onerous use of land. It's something we need to consider.
I understand, this is a 26.4 piece of property, and they have been on this property since 1960.
No, we applaud them. I'm glad they're around. It's great, but we have to figure out what we want to do. It may be fine. I don't know.
Where on that picture we're looking at, where is this structure going to be put up?
It's over by the wooded area, towards the back. I can't see the picture.
I just asked Nick to zoom out. There was discussion here trying to locate it.
What do they do?
Their government, they do engineering and testing lab for the United States. They're the leader in testing, engineering, logistics, technical publications, and military mission systems.
So,
They're one in the country.
Planning, do you have any comments on this?
Can you zoom out a little bit more, please?
Sure. Zooming in, zooming out, whatever.
we're not going to ask you to move it. We've gone through that before
How
tonight.
big is the main building? What's the total square footage there?
They're, I'd have to look at the CROs. There are several buildings. All of those buildings shown in that footprint belong to Dayton T. Brown. So we have buildings going from 30,000, 26,600, 15,000 square foot addition. There's numerous large buildings, but I said the average allowed square feet. I believe it's 26.4 acres.
Yeah, I actually had a question. I believe you may have even answered it, but you're saying, so this was on the previously approved site plan in 2001. It was at this height at that time? I couldn't really find that information.
No, the height of the building shed initially was 18 feet. The shed was relocated in 2001 when they put a 15,500 square foot addition in that area. So this shed was moved. The shed became in disrepair. This contract came up, and in order to put the equipment for the contract inside of the shed, it needed to be higher. It is a barrel roof shed. It's not. It's a steel master shed, which it has a traditional gable appearance with a straight sidewalls.
Okay, so it's in the same location with the same footprint, but the ceiling height has gone from 18 to 36.
Correct, and that is just the peak of the ceiling. I can show you what it looks like because they started to construct it.
And the necessity is based on storage of,
The equipment in the storage for the testing of this contract that they have coming due in January.
Is this the structure going up?
Yes, sir.
apartment building. Right, and what, just out of curiosity, as long as, you don't have to kill me if you tell me, what are they going to do in this building?
So we're going to keep the UFOs.
As I said, I can't tell you that. They have not told me that. I only know that it's a government contract to do some testing of something. Those sheds are similar to what the town of Islip uses on your, to store your salt and your sand and stuff at the town properties. It's no different than, because of the height, you would have to have the same height in order to get your forklifts and everything inside of those buildings.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No? Planning, you'll say? Planning, any other questions?
Any other questions? No.
I'll take a motion, please. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you so much. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Application number 736-24, Andrew Salerno and Kelly Schurz. Permission to erect two-story addition, 21.8 by 37.9 irregular, leaving side yard of 9 feet instead of required 14 feet, and floor area ratio of 26.7% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave hot tub, having side yard of 10 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence AA District, 278 Cluster, east side of Greenbelt Parkway, 252.2 feet north of Blue Point Road, Holtsville.
So Michael Orato, 245 Route 109, Suite D, West Babylon, New York, 11704. So we're here today proposing a second-story addition to add additional bedrooms and living space to this house. Currently, the way the house is set up, it has 2 bedrooms, a playroom, and currently they have 2 children, so they would like to add 2 more bedrooms to this house. Family is currently growing, and he just wants to make this pretty much his forever home. So we're seeking a 5-foot side yard relief, as well as an FAR of 1.7%, which is approximately 191 square feet. We did find a house on this street. It was 347 Greenbelt Parkway that had a very similar addition that carried a 10-foot side yard setback. The approval number was 647-04.
Is that the precedent that we have, is 10 instead of 14? Because that seems to be a common number.
I just know that this one had the 10. I know we're seeking 9. So I just found something that was...
Because if we start marching downward, 10 becomes 9, and then 9, well, you've given 9, give us 8, and before you know it, we're somewhere like on 127th Street, somewhere in Queens.
Can we zoom out a little bit?
Can they make it a 10? It doesn't seem like you have any precedent for 9.
Well,
It's like-
a little bit more, a little bit back.
Wow.
You had it that far out.
So it's like, it's really like 9.4 is what we really have.
But
It's-
we like round integers, like 10, 11, 12, comply.
But maybe we'll hear from Nick if we have anything at 9. Maybe we have a bunch of them, I don't know.
No, there's effectively no precedent here.
Yeah. Is 10 what we have, or is that a one-off, or is that the nature and character of the neighborhood?
The one he's citing is the only one that I'd heard of. It's also further away than what the board would usually look to.
So it's an otherwise compliant neighborhood?
I couldn't guarantee that, but as far as the board grants are concerned, the answer would be to that, yes.
That's our problem. We have a neighborhood that complies, and compliance is good.
I mean,
And-
look at the house next door, it's right on the property line. The house next door to that is right on the property line.
Yeah, I
What's
didn't
going on
pull...
there?
I don't know, but we don't
I didn't
have-
pull all of them.
Can
because-
never go strictly based on that line. That
No,
line is
I
outside.
understand that, but you could tell where it is based on the driveway line and the sod.
Yeah, but I
It's
don't want to,
possible.
I don't want to take a
Yeah, fine, yeah,
a
I get
flyer.
that. No, I understand, just, it seems like it's a cramped neighborhood.
If we have precedent, that's fine. If that's a nature and character, fine. But
Right.
if if we don't have it, I don't want to base it on something that I'm guessing, and I know those, whatever color that is. What is that, blue, green?
I can't see.
Those lines are superimposed.
That's true, but I'm looking at the sod.
But,
I get it.
Those lines aren't always accurate.
right.
No, I understand, I'm looking at where the sod ends though, compared to the house. It seems like it's in the fence, in the driveway. It seems like it's
It doesn't
closer.
look like it lines up, actually. Look at the top.
Oh, yeah.
You see? But we hear from the planning department that says there is no precedent.
All right,
There's not even one.
what about the 10? I couldn't hear him.
No, it's outside the
It's
500
outside
feet.
of the parameter, outside of the 500 feet, right, Nick?
But, I mean,
Yes, it's
Yeah.
about 1,500 feet away, that case. Again, I couldn't say whether or not there are short side yards here. I'm not sure if there is, but as far as the board has reviewed, to the best of my knowledge, the answer is no within the
It's the
immediate area.
applicant's, it's the applicant's burden to inform us.
Well, I had the one, I didn't know you guys go that far, I mean, this is the same
Yeah,
street.
but it's outside the 500.
But I didn't know that.
Well,
It's a
that's-
very
we're letting
similar,
you-
it's a
we're-
very similar build, the house
I know,
layout.
but we're letting you know, this is the precedent we've had since a gentleman named Richard Shire. It goes back 45 years, is we use 500-foot radius. If something was 501, 502, we're nice guys, but this is, we're being told it's way out, so we can't consider that. I get it, it may be identical, and it may seem like your lifeboat here, but we can't consider it. And then we look at what's there, we have not granted, it's a compliant neighborhood.
Okay.
Would you like to take an adjournment and try and find some other precedent closer to the subject parcel?
I'm gonna have the client here if we bring that 10 instead of the 9.4.
No,
sir.
no, 10, no, it's 10 is
Well, no,
not
no, it's-
working. 14 is the current mark.
So you're not even gonna grant
Well,
even at 10?
we don't have anything to hang our hat on. That's
We don't
why
have any
our,
precedent for 10.
our chairman, that's why he's chairman. Our chairman said, would you like to take an adjournment and see if you can give us information that we can say, aha, you're right. Right now, we don't have that.
So we need it in a 500-foot radius.
500-foot radius, and whatever precedent you can have. If you have a couple 13-footers, we'll consider it. If you come in with a 12, you're cooking with gas, but we have nothing now. We're giving you the opportunity. So take it.
Okay,
So you take the adjournment?
yeah. What about regards to the rest of it with the hot tub and?
We're not going to rule on anything until, but before we, does anyone else like to be heard in this matter? No, all right, so we'll grant an adjournment for you to give us whatever data you can to substantiate the 10-foot, 9-foot or the 10-foot side yard.
Or possibly amend the application.
Or you can obviously amend the application, right?
Okay. All right.
You can't hold it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the balance,
It's just that,
Leave
it's
it?
fine.
all right, so I'll take a motion for an adjournment.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Application number 737-24, Malta Lorenz, Buffalo HMG LLC. Permission to erect two-story dwelling, leaving floor area ratio of 29% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B District, west side of Buffalo Avenue, 325 feet south of Orleans Street, Iceland.
No, we're having a standoff here.
No, I don't know. Oh, that
I
is
think
okay.
He's the
Not the
applicant?
applicant, he's the neighbor.
He gets to go first.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is William Garbarino, 40 Main Street, Sayville, New York. I'm here on this application. We're seeking a floor area ratio of 29%. This matter was before this board back in 2015, and the board granted on this application, this piece of property, 30% FAR. So we're coming in to build a two-story house on this lot. I have the elevations if you want to look at them. And we don't need any other variances. We comply with everything.
Planning, do you have any information?
Just to agree with him, yeah, this was, for this property heard, it was granted no greater than 30. It's, I believe, only being reheard because the approval was timed out after enough time?
Correct.
Something along with that?
Okay, is there anyone else who'd like to be heard in this matter?
Yes, I would.
9 years ago.
Yes, I'm retired Captain Joseph P. Kleekin.
Sir, can you give us your name and address, please?
Joseph P. Kleekin, 116 Buffalo Avenue, Islip.
I'm sorry, you're retired captain?
That's
from-
correct.
From what, the United States Navy, or?
Yes.
Oh.
Coast Guard and a Merchant Marine captain. And I've lived in my house for 35 years, which I built 35 years ago to strict Islip codes. They kept me to the inches. My parents bought this property in the early 1940s, and this is
Which
the
property, the one you live on or the one we're talking about today?
same thing.
Oh, so you live at the location?
I live at 116 Buffalo Avenue, and this property that Mr. Lorenz, or whatever, is trying to build this house here was my parents' property. They bought this property back in the 1940s.
Wait, just so we're clear, I'm just trying to clarify the record. You do not live at the house that Mr. Lorenz is trying to build at?
No,
right?
I live at 116 Buffalo Avenue.
Okay, and this is 112? All right, just wanted to make sure we were.
Right.
If I recall, just really quick, this was subdivided off of the property you're referring to?
That's correct.
I understand, okay.
Okay, he's proposing to build this house. There's 29% instead of 25%. And back in 1989, when I built my house, they kept me to strict instructions to the inches, you know, to keep my house, you know, to code. And I've lived there my whole life. I'm sort of sentimentally inclined to oppose this because it's a little bit bigger than it should be. It's a 6-bedroom house. And
Sir, can I just make one observation? We hear what you're saying, and we understand your affinity to the property. When the house was built by you in 1989, the planning department said keep it to theoretically 25% FAR, right?
well, I have 10,000 square feet instead of the 7,500 square feet.
What I'm saying is, and I'll explain so you know what my thought process is. Had you come to the zoning board in 1989, we would have we grant routinely up to 30%. That 25, that 5% we grant all the time. And we previously granted 30%. And the chairman just handed me a zoning board decision, June 8th, 2015, application number 357-15, which we granted 30%. This is hang on, let me just finish. We do this every single night. I've been on the board almost 15 years, and I never remember not granting 30%. I'd have to have my head checked because we do it. Now, this application says this is a rare event. I don't want more, I want less. That's like you going for a job and say, I don't want that salary, I'll take less. They want to build less, and we've already granted 30%. So I'm just letting you know, that's where we're coming from. I understand your feelings.
Okay, but I'm coming from, I have 10,000 square feet, and this property is 7,500 square feet. Why do you even make these rules if you don't abide by them?
We do abide by them. A variance.
Okay, so, excuse me, but if you're saying it should be 25% of the property square acreage.
That's what the code
keep
says.
it to that.
But that's why we have zoning. We have zoning boards because prior to 1934, you could do anything you want. You could build a house right up to Main Street. The United States Supreme Court created in a case zoning. And they said, if you're going to have zoning, you must have zoning boards to allow variance because we don't want confiscation of property. We grant 30% over, and we've never denied 30%. I know you're shaking your head like I'm crazy. I may be crazy, but I know we always grant 30%. This applicant is seeking 29%. That's well within what, and had you come in 1989, you would have been granted 30%.
I don't care what happened
well, I
in
said my piece.
1989. We're talking about 2024 here.
We did this 2 weeks ago. We granted several 30s. We do it all the time. I know you don't care. I just want you to
I do care.
Well, you don't care what, I get it. I'm glad you care. We
And
care.
my neighbors will sign whatever you need to have signed to,
Then why aren't they here?
excuse me?
You said your neighbors will sign whatever you want
He
to
works.
oppose this.
He's in Brooklyn. He owns a company.
All right.
Anything else to say, sir?
Yeah, it should be 25%.
We understand.
All right, noted.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
sir.
keep it to that.
Thank you.
Keep your rules. If you're going to make 25%, keep it 25%, or don't even say it. All right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
You know, like, I'm an ex-captain, and if I navigated the oceans like this, I'd run aground. Okay?
Thank you,
That's all
sir.
I
Is
have.
there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application?
Thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you,
You too, sir.
sir.
Mr. Garbarino, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, there's nothing else.
Were you a captain, Mr. Garbarino?
Yeah, in the Army,
Oh, really?
yes.
Captain, me captain. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you both for your service.
Thank you.
I will take a motion, please.
That's Islip. All right, I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Application's granted.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too.
Application number 738-24, Charles and Natalie Duplessis. Permission to erect 1.5-story addition, 37. Total side yards of 32.9 feet instead of required 36 feet. To leave greenhouse having side yard of 1.2 feet instead of required 2 feet, and hot tub having rear yard of 13.73 feet instead of required 18 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Benson Avenue, 632.83 feet south of Jones Drive, Save FM.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Diana Laspisa with Morano Expediting Services, 2938 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 212, Levittown, New York, 11756. Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the property owners, Charles and Natalie Duplessis, and we're requesting permission to construct a two-car garage addition holding a minimum side yard setback of 10 foot 2 inches instead of the required 18 feet, a total side yard setback of 32.6 instead of the required 36 feet. The owners reside in the house with their 4 children, 2 of which are of driving age and have vehicles as well. Amongst the family, they have 4 vehicles that are used on a daily basis: 2 large pickup trucks, a car, and an SUV. The existing garage is used for the storage of a vehicle as well as all the children's bikes, sporting equipments, and typical household items. In May of 2023, Mr. Duplessis's father had passed away. Sorry, I lost my spot. He has since inherited 3 of his father's classic cars that are very sentimental to him: a Nova, a Maverick, and an Impala. These aren't vehicles that you would typically keep outside, and unfortunately, he has no current space in his current garage to house them. The proposed garage will be for the storage of those vehicles. There will be no attic space in the garage, and it will remain open. The garage will be attached via a breezeway, which appears to be, which appears to be very common with other residences in the immediate area. Yes.
Going to ask is, can you give us precedent where we've granted 10.2 instead of 18?
So we didn't have, I can tell you, I didn't have a chance to foil the properties. I drove throughout the neighborhood. I did take several photographs. I have an aerial printed, but I think your aerial might be better. There are many homes that appear to be similar setbacks. A bunch that are 12 feet. There's about 1 or 2 that appear to be an 8-foot setback. One that's actually a 6-foot setback.
But we
which
don't
I
know
did-
if any of those are legal.
I don't have the
Okay.
foils on those. I don't
Maybe-
know if planning.
Maybe Nick does.
Okay.
Planning, do you have any information for us? Unlike-
I do not have any information as far as board grants go. It was a singular grant at 14 for a deck, and that's all I could find.
Okay. So then I'll finish my presentation, but I would like to adjourn and do a formal foil of the neighborhood because there are several houses that you can.
So then why don't we adjourn now, because we're not going to hear it piecemeal, and you're going to come back and we'll have to hear the
But I didn't
same
know if the
thing.
board had questions on anything else.
Well,
We'll ask questions when we have the whole application in front of us.
So do all the research you deem appropriate, and then
Okay.
we'll hear it.
Before we grant the adjournment, is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No, all right, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application's adjourned.
Thank you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Application number 739 24, CLA Holdings LLC, permission to subdivide lot into two parcels. Lot 1, to erect two-story dwelling on lot having width of 60 feet instead of required 75 feet. And Lot 2, to leave two-story dwelling on lot having width of 63 feet instead of required 75 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Nassau Avenue and Chestnut Street, Islip.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York, also known to my children as Captain Crunch. Generally, every time I go out on a boat, I hit something, whether it's a dock or sand. That being said, the applicant here is looking to subdivide a lot just behind Town Hall. I'm sure a lot of you drive or have driven past it many times. I'm turning around because I'm looking for Jay. I see him coming. I want to hand up a couple of photographs that you may not be able to see from the aerial. I'm also handing up a duplicate disclosure affidavit. I believe one that was submitted may not have accurately reflected who the applicant was. But this particular house was built approximately 1869, and it's on a quite large lot compared to everything else in the area. So going to the nature and character of what we're asking for, many of the parcels nearby are as small as 50 feet, 48s, 43s, 53s. Indeed, there was a subdivision just down the block at number 28 Chestnut, and I believe that was granted 67.4 feet. So, Mr. Wexler, I do not have precedent for 63 feet, but we do have precedent for 67. In addition...
I'm sorry, could you tell us, if you don't have a radius map, can you tell us how many parcels in a 500-foot radius, if you know the number, whether they're wholly subsumed in that 500 feet or even a piece, are 60 or 63?
I can count them right now if
Okay.
you'd like. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got a couple of 38s, a 37, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I've got literally just on the west side of Nassau Avenue, I've got about 24 sub-sized parcels.
And when you say sub-sized, how sub? Are they 60? How many 60 or 63s are there?
If you want, I'll read them off to you if you want. I've got a 59.7, 61.4, 49.7.
What is this?
Yeah,
What is this
where
number?
are you getting this information from, please?
We pulled it up from the tax map. If you want, I can hand it up. That
It
might be
sounds
easy.
like you might be quoting 40 Nassau, which is where our offices are, which is condominium-sized lots.
No, this is all on Columbia Street and on Chestnut. I'll hand this up and I'll be without it so the board
No,
can
we'll
see.
give it back. We'll give it back.
So-
Well, eventually. we'll have to copy it.
Focusing on the improved lot, which for some reason is known as Lot 2 in this subdivision, I handed up the photographs, or a little packet of photographs, because what the aerial doesn't show you is this lot is about, the house is about 18.5 feet off of Nassau Avenue. It is quite close. And what happens is the applicant or the occupant of the house does not utilize the front door, which is what we're calling out as the address on Nassau. The applicant and the owner-occupant of the house generally uses everything on Chestnut Street. So in the photographs I handed up, again, that you might not be able to see on the GIS, the front door does indeed face Nassau, but the access to the house is all done on Chestnut. There's a garage on Chestnut, the driveway is on Chestnut, the access to the house is on Chestnut. And I think that's important because on Chestnut, the improved lot, Lot 2 in the subdivision, has a street frontage of 112 feet. So although it's not technically considered the front yard because it's a corner property and the door faces Nassau, in reality and the functionality of this house, the front yard is really on Chestnut. When you get to Lot 1, which is the unimproved lot that we're looking for this subdivision, we do have a 63-foot request. for the improvement of that lot. And generally, from what I passed up a moment ago with all of the substandard lots in the area, we would be in conformance with just about every one of them. And again, I counted real quickly now about 25 of those parcels. I want to point out to the board that we meet all other lot requirements on both parcels. We're not asking for any setbacks. We're not asking to go to 30%. We're going to comply at 25. Indeed, I think one of them is only 22% lot coverage. So the only thing that we're here before the board is generally the lot frontage. And if you take my position of really the subject parcel that's improved, facing and being utilized on Chestnut Street with 112 frontage, it's really the only unimproved lot that we're asking for the setback. And again, sometimes we have to read into the code. We go by the letter of the code, and it tells us the house is where the front door is. But in reality, the front door for this house is on Chestnut. And that's also important because on the front of the house, you don't have a driveway. You don't have the activities normally found on the front of the house, which is pulling in and out of the car, the driveways, pedestrians walking to and from. All the activity on this particular lot 2 is all done on Chestnut. So when we do subdivide, and if this board were to approve it, and you build the house next door to the north, the activity to that house will indeed take place on Nassau Avenue, but we're not going to be doubling the activity on that small strip of land. With that being said, I think there was one other applicant, and the 2 applications that I have on 20 Chestnut, on the ZBA 22990, there was a 2-lot subdivision for 67.4 feet. I believe Mr. Barbarella was able to confirm that. And on 28 Chestnut Street, there was a Board of Appeals to maintain or leave a dwelling on a lot with a 50-foot parcel. So in keeping with the nature and character of the area, I just showed the little map, and you can kind of see it on the aerial as well. Many of the parcels nearby are well under the 75 feet. Some of them are almost half of that, and we're asking for the 63. I don't think there'll be any adverse environmental impact. Again, forgetting the, quote, environmental impact, I don't think there's going to be much roadway impact or frontal impact because of the use of the primary structure is on Chestnut and not on Nassau. The benefit to the applicant here will surely be outweighed by any detriment because no one really nearby is going to say, oh, look, you built this monster when every other house here is tiny and every other lot is somewhat smaller than what we've got. Could we achieve this in any other way? Not really. We're splitting the lot. I mean, you could say, well, don't split the lot, but we are splitting the lot, keeping, how should we say, 50-50, north and south. If the board has any questions, I'd certainly entertain them. Other than that, I thank you for your time.
Any questions from the board at this time? Lanny, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to start with the question, and you may have already answered this, forgive me if you have. I'm looking at this tax map that you printed out.
Yeah.
Where are you getting the numbers here from exactly? All these like decimal numbers? Is that?
That's coming off, you can pull it up when you pull up the tax map. I don't think they were able to print it. So like, depending on which screen you're using, it'll actually show you what the frontage are. And Mr. Barbarella, I mean, if they're off a foot or two, none of them are off, 10 feet, 20 feet. So if one says 67.8 and it's 67.6, I think we're splitting hairs at that point. But I think everyone can clearly see that the nature and character of this particular area, well within 500 feet, I would argue even within 100 and 200 feet, there are multiple substandard lots.
Okay,
Mr. Bertolino, if I may just...
So the reason we require the 500 radius map, which was filed at our office after it was obtained from planning, is so that we could do an analysis off of the 500-foot radius map.
Right.
I'm thinking that this is what we normally see. I'm not doubting your numbers, but we have to go with town records. I'm thinking that maybe you may want to adjourn this so you can foil this because if those numbers that you have prove out, it seems like a reasonable application. But I think we need it in the format we're used to seeing it.
If it's only the form, what I would say, Mr. Wexler, is what you're looking at that I don't have, and I apologize for that. Is it indicating that I'm misrepresenting the nature and character of the area as being smaller lots? Or you don't have the numbers on
No,
there?
it doesn't have the numbers, so I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to guess, and you don't want to guess, because
No,
you
but
might
you,
be right.
right, and you, again, you can see from the diagram that you have on the radius map that these are substandard lots for a 75-foot zone.
To intercede here, I have looked into this area before a bit. I probably walked through Chestnut Street, Columbia Street hundreds of times, and I believe the numbers that you have are at least pretty close to accurate. I would agree, this area has plenty of substandard lots of 60 all the way down to 50. I couldn't tell you an exact percentage of that, but I don't think the request here is exactly out of character for the neighborhood. I think I know that at least on Chestnut, there's probably 4 or 5 lots that are 60 feet or less. That's just on Chestnut alone. That's maybe like 40% right there that I'm aware of. I think the nature and character of this presentation is relatively strong. I just don't have percentages and exacts for you. I was hoping that the applicant might. I know I didn't speak with you. I spoke with Doris Kennedy many months ago, and I had mentioned that she should do the radius map with the, I guess that wasn't referred to you exactly. but-
Understood. When I spoke to Ms. Kennedy, who, did most of the legwork on this, we went over it. I didn't know a specific request was made for the radius map. And not to belabor the point, whether it's a particular radius map or whether it's the tax map that I handed up, I think the gist of the application is we are complying or keeping in nature with the character area. If the board feels that you want something that you're used to and can more definitively set forth, we'll certainly be happy to do that.
I think that's a good suggestion. As I said before, we're used to seeing this in this format. And if the numbers are proving out in this format, I think we know where we're headed. But I would feel much more comfortable if we see day in, day out. I'd rather stay true to what is our pattern. And I think a short adjournment, we could accomplish that.
Well, I heard December 10th is all booked up, but I'm not here the following week. Mary's shaking her head no.
Well, cancel your vacation.
No way. Going heli skiing. I might not come back, but I'm going.
Does anyone else would like to be heard in this application? So please come up.
Hello, I'm Patricia Meyer, 37 Chestnut Street, Islip, New York. I live directly adjacent to the property in question. I've lived in this house for 44 years. I bought the house with my husband when I was 18 years old. My house was...
Could you pull them? I can't hear what
Sorry.
you're saying. No, thank you.
We've lived in our house for 44 years. We bought the house when I was 18 years old. The house was a carriage barn. It was abandoned. We've preserved the house, put it back to life, did many improvements to it. I've known the previous owner, Lenny, who died 2 years ago, and the real estate purchased the house. They did a beautiful job flipping the house. It's not being occupied now by an owner, it's being rented right now. And they kept a very nice job of the house. I know all our houses are close together, but that's because most of the houses are very, very old. My house was a carriage barn built well over 100 years ago. The properties were all divided there. The property in question was the Rayner Estate that was divided 88 years ago, and that house was put on the corner. I don't really see the benefit of putting another house right there. Yes, there are close houses on small pieces of property, but that's because that's what was done 100 years ago, not now, in 2024. I don't see how it's going to profit the town by putting another structure there. It's a beautiful piece of property.
Just a brief aside, just so you know, and anybody else here, I'll just say this once. One of the first element we have to look at, the most important in the 5, is what is the nature and character of the neighborhood. And if the nature and the character of the neighborhood is, even though they would legacy and they may be there 100 years,
right.
If that's what is existing, that's where we have to go.
I understand.
So it's not, we get it, we understand your concern.
I understand, and believe me, if perhaps this company that bought this property would have been neighborly and came over and showed me what they want to do and tell me how far this new house is going to be from my property line, because my sideline faces both of these properties now. So my whole backyard
They're in
inside.
compliance. They don't need a
Okay.
variance. They're not going to be any closer than the law permits.
Okay, that's
So,
why I just want to
You
know.
want to, here, take this copy. You want a copy? Here,
Oh, okay.
I want to be neighborly.
Don't make her climb up this.
I'm sorry. I don't think I have any notes on it. Take a look. Take your time, take a look.
If you're gonna, if you just go back to the podium, please.
And if you have a question, maybe Mr. Bertolino will point it out. He's a gentleman.
Came over and showed me this.
So where are you located?
I am right here, I'm 37, right, the house right behind, the house with the garage, and where the vacant property is.
Oh, that's over here.
I can't, I don't even have my
So this
glasses
is
on.
Chestnut, and this is the corner of Nassau.
My house is right, the first house in.
Well, they're on the corner, so you can't be, you have to be next to the garage?
Yes, I'm right next to the garage.
Okay, so this house is staying, everything is
Mhm.
staying here with the garage. This
Okay.
is the proposed new dwelling, which meets all lot
Okay, I just want to know how far it is from my fence.
67 feet to the corner
So
of the
like,
house.
not closer than the garage.
No, it's, 3 times, the garage is only, what, 8 feet?
Okay.
So, more than that.
But like-
7 times?
They should have came over and showed me this.
And I apologize that they did not, but I can certainly ask them to, I mean, you're seeing it now. don't
Yeah,
know
I
if
mean,
you
they
need
did a
to
beautiful
see it now.
job flipping this
Ma'am,
house.
we gave you the brief up, we can't.
I'm sorry.
No, no, it's not you.
I'm
There's a
sorry.
lot of people waiting.
But
and
I would
everybody
like
wants
you
go
to
home.
still do your research and
Absolutely,
see.
absolutely.
But, you know,
Jay, can you give this back to Mr. Wexler?
thank you, sir.
Don't
You
throw
can
it
keep
at
it,
me.
you can keep it if you want it.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing
Is
me.
there anyone
I
else that
just
would like
wanna
to be
make
heard in this
sure.
application? Please come up, sir.
You're welcome.
If you wanted a copy of that, you can have it. We have plenty. Jay, would you? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joseph Lorimore. I live at 79 Nassau Avenue, which is across the street on... Oh, sure, not a problem. My name is Joseph Lorimore. I live across the street at 79 Nassau Avenue. And I had a question as far as, I heard there was a lot of examples of what's indicative of the neighborhood and the smaller size lots. And I noticed that they're all on the Chestnut side of the street, where the subdividing is not happening on the Chestnut side of the street. So I was wondering if there are other examples that they could draw from that would divide on the Nassau side of the street.
That's why we're adjourning it, so we can get more.
Okay, all right. I didn't
We
know. if
want to
it ma-
get all the information
Okay.
so we do it right.
Sure, that's fine. I didn't know if it made a difference if he was pulling from Chestnut, even though it was being.
It's a 500-foot circle.
Okay, all right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to be heard in this matter? No. Okay, Mr. Bertolino, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just so the board knows, and to answer the gentleman's question, yes, on Vale Street, which is just across the street diagonally to the north, there is a 57, a 63, and a 45 width lot. So it's not just the one side of Nassau Avenue that has a lot of smaller lots. It's literally the whole area is like that. We will get that radius map, and I'm just wondering if the board would adjourn to what date? Or is it?
Okay.
Yeah. We have a suggestion where we're going to reserve, and then we'll allow for you to submit additional.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And
So-
the submission will be available to anybody who wants to view the file.
When
Thank
do
you.
they have to submit by?
How long do you want for the submit?
I don't know how long it would take to get the radius map, a couple of days, but you got the holidays, so give me
You want
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks?
All right, so I'll take a motion to reserve decision with 2 weeks to allow for submittals by the applicant.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Reserve
Have a
decision.
happy Thanksgiving.
One more.
Application number 740-24, Transform Bohemia New York LLC. Permission to subdivide lot into 3 parcels. Lot 1, to leave commercial building on conforming parcel. Lot 2, to erect fast food restaurant with drive-through service, leaving arterial highway setback of 35.9 feet instead of required 60 feet on lot having area of 36,821 square feet instead of required 40,000 square feet. And Lot 3, to erect fast food restaurant with drive-through service, leaving rear yard of 7.8 feet instead of required 10 feet. Business 3 District, north side of Sunrise Highway, 1,047 feet east of Lakeland Avenue, Bohemia.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Allison Lapointe from the firm Sir Tillman, Ballin, Adler, Hyman, offices at 100 Motor Parkway, Hotbug, New York, 11788 for the applicant. For the record, I have just submitted 2 aerial photographs and 1 street view image for your review, as well as the town board approval of special permits and the site plan and subdivision, as well as the covenants and restrictions that were set there too. A little bit of history on this property. We have already been through the town board approval process. A town board public hearing was held on November 30th, 2023, where 2 special permits for a fast food restaurant, as well as minor subdivision and site plan were all approved. The approval is effective as of August 4th, 2024, and again, subject to the covenants and restrictions which I've submitted. All of this was also considered by the planning board as part of their November 8th resolution of 2024. This is our last stop in the process in order to be able to move forward to building permit. The subject lot was first developed in the 1970s and presently is improved with a multi-tenant commercial structure of about 233,000 square feet. The property is 24 acres in size, and as just mentioned in the call of the calendar, there is a proposed 3-lot subdivision. 2 of the 3 lots will be conforming, with Lot 2, which is slated to house a Taco Bell, being slightly undersized. The relief before you again is a 3-lot land division. We have a Lot 2, which will be a Taco Bell, and Lot 3, which is intended to be a Chick-fil-A. The Lot 2 for Taco Bell requires lot area as well as a front yard setback request. Lot 3 for Chick-fil-A requires a minor rear yard relief. So in terms of the lot area for Lot 2 for Taco Bell, the lot is going to be 36,821 square feet, where 40,000 square feet is required. This is about an 8% variance from what is permitted and about 3,000 square feet undersized. These lots, as you can see, are really only going to be evident to the public as on the maps. The lots will continue to work symbiotically with each other as well as with the commercial properties on the other side, which maintain cross-access. So while there is a 3,000 square foot undersized, the only people who will know that it is 3,000 square feet undersized are those who are looking at the map. In functional reality, it will not be apparent to the public. So again, it's a minor...
What about the closeness to the arterial highway? You say
Certainly.
that, you say, I'm sorry. You say that, and I agree with you, the average person wouldn't know it was 3,000 plus feet smaller than it should be. We understand that. What about the closeness to the arterial highway?
Certainly.
Is that as deceptive, or is that noticeable?
So it is a little bit deceptive in that we do have an extensive right-of-way between where the building is going to be located and the curb line. So while we're requesting a 35.9-foot setback from the canopy, and it's a 40-foot setback from the building itself, it's about 54 feet from the curb line. I would also note, as you'll see in the street view image that was circulated, there are existing street trees, as well as there will be, as per the engineering comments, a small berm constructed in that location.
I just heard some numbers. So what you're saying with the buffer or the setback, it's 50, how many feet?
Along with the right-of-way, it's around
Along the right-
54 feet, yes,
All
to
right.
the curb line,
All right.
yes.
So
And-
what I'm saying is not as noticeable as, I got you.
And
Okay.
also for the nature and character of the community, if you'll look at the aerial photographs, the Burger King that is directly to the west is around 28 feet from the property line, as well as the Old Navy is under setback as well.
Thank you.
Certainly. If there are any
Planning?
questions for the board.
I'm sorry, any questions from the board at this time? Planning, do you have any comments on this application?
Yeah, just, I would agree with most of what she said there. Actually, I would agree with everything that she said there. This has been through extensive review already. The only thing here that's really of any significance would be the arterial highway setback. Again, there's adequate landscaping screening that, and the landscaping is actually part of the reason why it is this close. There's land banked parking, especially those concerned for the residences behind the existing building. And in order to get proper site circulation, adequate parking, and have a long enough drive-through queue to make all of this function well, this location was the best that we could come up with, I guess I should say. I don't expect it should be an issue, and one of the reasons for the high arterial highway setback would be for a potential road widening in the future, which we do not anticipate here.
The New York State Department of Transportation has reviewed the application, correct?
Yes.
Because another reason for arterial highway setback is to protect against a car careening off the road and crashing into
Correct.
the building. And that's already been addressed during site plan review and has been forwarded to the New York State Department of Transportation.
That is correct.
So to summarize, planning supports the application.
Appreciated.
Thank you, planning. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this application? No? Okay. I'll take a motion, please.
Make a motion, we approve the application.
All in favor? Aye. Application is granted.
Thank you, and a happy Thanksgiving. Take care.
Have a nice Thanksgiving. Give you, Mike.
Leaves only.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay. That was Dan and Chris.
Dan, Chris.
And Dan and Chris. And we have one decision to read into the record. Application number 556-24, Marlon Mendez, in accordance with a proposed written decision dated November 26, 2024. The application is denied. On motion of?
Chris, motion?
Motion.
Second by Dan? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. That's a wrap.
a
Thank you,
wrap.
Ken.
When are we meeting next?
December 10, 2 weeks.
Really? And then we
And then we do December 7th.